Senator, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Did you talk to any of the Uluru Statement architects before deciding to name your party Australia's Voice?
So I've had many private conversations and I haven't asked for people's permission if I can share their names, but yes, there were one of many conversations that I've had about the name, but in particular, I think highlighting that the failed referendum that was poorly managed by the Albanese Labor government, and mind you, I was a part of that government when we were running this, but the campaign, the strategy, and obviously the way it was communicated didn't do that well, as we saw the result. But that being said, when the Republic referendum happened, you know, it's been almost a generation and it's just been parked on the side. We can't afford to just park Indigenous issues when it comes to, you know, we don't want our grandchildren essentially to be worrying about this. We want to be able to close the gap, make sure that the standard of livability and life expectancy for Indigenous people are on par with non-Indigenous people.
But choosing this name, which has a specific meaning and was worked on for years in unprecedented consultation with Indigenous Australians, can you understand that some of those involved in the campaign in putting that forward might feel this is disrespectful to take this name now for a political party?
Well, I guess this isn't just the Voice referendum per se. This is Australia's Voice, and that's encompassing all the communities, people from all walks of life.
You're adopting that name.
I mean, the Voice in particular, the word voice isn't trademarked per se.
You're saying this is just a coincidence that you've taken that name?
Well, the fact that I want to represent and give people an opportunity for an alternative, a party that has struck the balance between practicality and pragmatism, and understood that, you know, there may be things and policy positions that are possible, but we need to look at what will work on the ground for, you know, Australian mums and dads and people out there.
But are you saying you took this name, it had nothing to do with the Voice campaign?
Well, the Voice campaign had happened, yes. We have seen how, you know, what a travesty that was. And obviously that had a constitutional element, and there were Indigenous community members that we saw throughout the Voice campaign, the Voice referendum campaign, that were objecting to the constitutional element of it. What Australia's Voice as a political party will do is offer people, firstly, an alternative. You know, it's only been an hour and we've received 250 emails, 200 subscribers, people who are current Labor, Liberal and Greens members who are basically saying we want to join this cause because we see it as a movement to move away from the duopoly of the two major parties.
But just coming back to the choice of this name, are you saying that it's got nothing to do with the Voice campaign, that that's just a coincidence, or did you deliberately adopt that name for that reason?
Well, I think it's important to see that Australia's Voice as a political party will be prioritising and looking into Indigenous issues as much as it will be for all Australians and all the concerns.
You didn't talk to any of the people involved in the Uluru Statement, did you?
So I again, private conversations, and can't delve into what was discussed and with whom.
Well, Pat Anderson is one of them, and she says she wasn't consulted.
No, so Pat Anderson wasn't.
She's surprised that you've adopted this name.
Yeah, look, people are going to have objections. That's just the nature of the political landscape and political world we live in. At the end of the day, it comes down to the intentions and what this party stands for.
So no apologies about the name?
I don't see why I should apologise.
And you wouldn't change it?
No, it's out there. People are loving it. I'm getting so much support already. And I think through my conversations on the doors, wherever I went, people were looking for an alternative, and this is their alternative, to have their voices heard.
And do you think on this issue of the Voice, it should now be legislated?
Well, there are so many options on the table, and we shouldn't discount anything, but what I would urge the Parliament, my colleagues, to do is to have elders come together. When I was on my 12 Towns and 12 Days tour in WA in particular, and I know that issues like this reverberate throughout our nation, there were issues that were local issues and they had local solutions, but the government wasn't willing to listen. And it takes all tiers of government to come together to resolve the issue, and that requires political will, that requires political bravery, which we're not seeing from the Labor government.
Are you now willing to consult with those who came up with and pushed the cause?
I am open to have conversation with anyone. My door's open.
Should you have done that before taking the name?
The people I've consulted with and came up with a name, they were fine with it. Again,
And who are they?
I cannot disclose because I haven't received their permission to disclose their names.
Okay, but the people involved in the Uluru Statement, should you have consulted them?
Well, I've consulted those who I could, and I was able to in the short period of time. Mind you, the decision to form the party was only done in September, and as you can imagine, being short-staffed and the PM not giving me my full staffing allocation, it's been really difficult to stay on top of the legislative agenda of this place while also trying to think about we've got an election around the corner.
You ran out of time.
It's been a pretty busy past few months.
Do you have any policies?
Yeah, so obviously in the press conference, I did say that, we'll have them released in due time. But if we look back at some of the policy positions I've taken already, I think we'll strongly advocate for a cap for negative gearing and capital gains, and ensure that, the dream of owning your home isn't just a distant memory or a distant wish, but rather something that's attainable for not just the younger generation, but many mums and dads out there who are struggling.
And what about when it comes to the war in Gaza? Is your policy to recognise a Palestinian state immediately?
That would be definitely something that I would advocate for strongly. That's something that's overdue and this government has been sitting on its hands for. You can't have a two-state solution like they are advocating without recognising one of those two states. But at the same time, we also want to look into public school funding. I had a meeting earlier with the Australian Education Union, who are very stressed out about the fact that they'll be locked into a 10-year contract because the government isn't willing to increase the SRS to 25% to ensure that public schools out there are fully funded for 100% around the states. And that's one of the policies that we'll go hard on, because we shouldn't disable our young people from attaining education just because of their postcode.
So are these policies at the moment, or are these things, themes that you'd like to work on that you'll turn into policies down the track?
So this is obviously a starting point. We've just launched the party today. Lots more to come with more detail, and it will require a lot of work, like I said, but I'm not going to shy away from it. I think I'm ready.
Senator, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.